Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Harry from Spurs TV, back with another match review video. So Spurs have drawn their first game of the season, 1-1 with Leicester. So this is just my match summary slash thoughts. It's the first one of the season, so yeah, let's get into it. So Spurs started with Maddison in midfield. Unsurprisingly, he was the one question mark I think everyone kind of thought. Solanke made his debut. Again, unsurprisingly, and Son played on the left. We'll talk about him in a minute. And Johnson on the right. And for the first 45 minutes, Spurs kind of dominated the game. They took the lead for a Porro header created by actually Maddison, who, touch wood, this is probably his best game since like the end of last season. And later on, I'll talk about why I'm mentioning him so much, because something happened later on which is quite interesting. So yes, the Spurs were winning 1-0. And as usual, like last season, the second half starts. Leicester come back into the game. Vardy scores goal, which I felt was kind of inevitable because Spurs tend to take the lead and just invite pressure. So again, nothing has changed since last season. Unfortunately, Bentancur went off with like a bad injury in the second half. I've heard he's all right now. So I don't know how long his recovery will be. He went off with notch mask and stuff, so I hope Bentancur gets well soon. But as for the game itself, like I said, the first half, Spurs dominated. Solanke had a few chances. The second half was more Leicester, I guess, as people say, a game of two halves. But what I was most disappointed about is the goal we conceded. Vardy was left by himself on the far post. It's like Spurs were just ball watching, again, like last season. Does Ange coach defending? It doesn't seem like he does, because, yeah, I guess there's one positive. We didn't concede from a set piece, but we did concede from, for me, a very poor defensive goal. We should not be conceding that way at all. I'm sorry, like it's just really poor. And I mean, like, what can you do? And again, Bergvall came on, Gray came on, players that people were telling me are going to be stars. I include Johnson in this because if Johnson started, everyone was telling me he's going to have this amazing second season, and I saw nothing. I actually saw him be a bit worse tonight than last season. No end product. There were instances when he could ball in. Very poor. Son, I've been saying this for a while, and I do think this applies even more this season because he's not playing in the middle. He's done, man. He's done. In pre-season, you can see Son's legs were gone, and this was kind of just reflected in the first game of the season. And for me, if it was any half decent, well, I say big club, because we say we're a big club, but we don't really act like one, they would have sold Son like 2 years ago. I'd say. I mean, the Conte season was the first sign of decline, in my opinion. Last season, they, to kind of counteract the decline, because Son did lose pace last season, they put him in the middle, and he became like the striker, of course. And he was carried by Maddison and other players in scoring tap-ins last season. That's how I see it. I know he's got the 17 goals, and everyone will say, oh, well, he's playing on the left this season, he'll get more or the same, because apparently he's a left winger. Well, I think his fall was mirrored to kind of when Bale came back, because Bale was not the same player when he came back. And I know people say he didn't want to be there, but I'm talking about physicality here, not about, whether the player wants to be here or not. Son just doesn't have the legs anymore, and that's understandable. He's like 32 now, and he's been running his whole life playing as a winger. But just how it is, Ronaldo moved into the middle later on in his career. Son did that last season, and this is where we saw him have some success. But now, so we signed Solanke. Son, for me, has just been shoved on the left because he's the captain and he has to play. So I would, if it was me, I'd rip up the captaincy from Son right now. Unfortunately, with that issue is that there's no one else to be captain I can think of right now who go in. Werner looks like a wasted loan. He came on in the second half, did absolutely nothing. Solanke, I've seen some people praising him, some people criticizing him on Twitter. Bear in mind, this is like a straight off the cuff match review, right? So my opinion on Solanke's first game, there were some positives and some negatives. Some positives were he looked like he wanted the ball. Negatives were obviously he missed 2 or 3 chances. The first one was very good. I know he didn't get enough on it with his head, but it was a very good chance that I think he should have done a lot better on, if I'm being honest. And then the second half didn't get much service. And yeah, I mean, you look at our wingers. Johnson was abysmal. Werner came on and was abysmal. Kulusevski came on as a number 10. I kind of think he should have restarted because of his pre-season, at least in some position. I wanted to see him ahead of Maddison, but in the end, Maddison starting was a good choice. Obviously, he got taken off later on, and that was to our detriment because I think he was probably our best player tonight. But yeah, so all in all, 1-1. Not the worst start this season because we easily could have lost this game in the end because the momentum fell to Leicester. But the same deficiencies are still there. We haven't rectified it in the transfer window. Solanke actually coming in has kind of made Son weaker, you could argue, because like I said, he was playing in the middle last season when he was getting those goals, not off the left. In fact, his only good game off the left last season was against Trippier, who's like slow as hell. And the other games he played there were just really not that great. And I think Son should be a rotational player. This is just my opinion. He should be a rotational player. At a big club, he wouldn't even be there anymore because he just doesn't have the legs for it. And it's nothing against him as a player in terms of like he's got lots of goals to Spurs in the past and stuff like that. But he shouldn't be playing, not at this level. And if he's going to be playing at this level, nowhere near this much. So we've got a lot of work to do. There's 10 days, 11 days till the window closes. Are we going to sign 2 wingers that we badly need? I highly doubt it. Obviously, Chiesa was mooted. Neto was the one that Ange apparently very, very highly wanted. He was kind of obsessed with him during the Euros, someone told me. That's off the table because he's gone to Chelsea. But for me, 2 new wingers. I send Werner back to Germany, if I'm being honest. I think this is a waste of a year. And again, the midfield, just touch on that very quickly. Bentancur was good until obviously he had his injury and was probably our best midfielder. I think maybe slightly edges Maddison a bit. Sarr was all right. The defence, I know Porro scored, but again, they just left exposed because of the tactics, which is kind of makes sense really if you look at the way we play. So, has there been improvements? No, not really. Just summarising the first game of the season, we easily could have lost the way to Leicester, who, as people know, are a bit of a mess right now anyway, with obviously Maresca going and Steve Cooper coming in, who is not exactly the best manager in the world, is he really? I know he did stuff at Forest, but he didn't really do that well in the Premier League, did he, with them? We've gone to a team that was a mess and didn't get a result. So, pretty poor start. It feels more like a loss than a draw. And I guess, come on you Spurs, and we can only pray for a miracle in the next 2 weeks.